Hey, welcome to Project Recovery, a podcast about addiction, but most importantly, it's about recovery.
That's the most important part.
You know what I mean? Because I like to show people that recovery is possible, Dr. Matt.
That was our goal when we started the show.
Because the reality is everybody goes through tough times. And whether it's an addiction to alcohol, addiction to drugs, addiction to pornography, gambling. I'm not saying everybody's going to get that addiction, but
Netflix, Diet Coke, donuts.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's something in your life that has power over you that you wish it didn't.
Or one of your family members do.
Yes. And sometimes the hardest part is how to reach that person, how to be empathetic, how to be loving, how to set boundaries. There's no rule book for this. We got all kinds of stuff on math and algebra, which we never, ever use, but nobody ever sits us down and teaches us how to communicate with our loved ones, how to be empathetic.
It would be a different world if that was required.
How to be understanding.
Yeah.
And so that's what we wanted to do on this podcast. Now, Dr. Matt, the first part of the podcast is always me and you just kind of chatting and what's going on in my life, what's going on in your life. And I was thinking about something I was driving down here. Even when I was in my most optimistic state, and this is when I was on the radio, I was married, everything seemed to be good, I always walked around wondering when the other shoe was going to drop. I mean, it didn't matter how good life was. I was always preparing for the other shoe to drop on anything. And it kind of always put me on the edge. Because I really wasn't able to be authentic and in the moment and enjoying everything that was going on because I was concerned about when's that other shoe going to drop. And I didn't even know what that shoe was going to drop about, but I was always in the back of my mind thinking,
it's kind of a feeling, right?
Yeah, like life is just too good. It shouldn't be this good. When is this going to come crashing down? Little did I know that it was going to.
We know the date now.
Yeah, it's September 3rd, 2018. But to be honest, there was many days before that that the shoe had dropped. But I can tell you right now, my life is going fabulous. It's going wonderful. I got great relationship with my parents, with my kids, with my girlfriend, with my ex-wife, with my work, with everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't have this overwhelming feeling that the other shoe is going to drop. That doesn't mean that I'm naive and I'm not preparing for the future and, should bad things happen, because they are going to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm not constantly wondering, when is it going to happen? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's a mind shift in my sobriety or I've kind of grown up and I just don't know what it is. But
well, that was going to be my question is, do you understand why it's different now?
I don't, but I don't feel like it. Like right now, everything's coming up aces for me. And
it's going well.
And it's great. And instead of wondering when the shoe's going to drop, I'm actually enjoying it. I'm enjoying my time on TV. I'm enjoying my conversations with my kids. I'm enjoying my girlfriend. I'm enjoying the relationship I have with my ex-wife. I'm not enjoying so much the remodel that's been going on since last December.
Yeah.
But I'm excited.
You will someday when it's all done.
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know why. Can you tell me why?
Well, let's talk about it.
Okay.
So back in the day, when you said you had that feeling of everything, and we all knew you. I knew of you back in those days when you were on the radio, and before I was on that radio show, you had just left, so our paths didn't quite cross at that point. But things were going well. But like you said, you were thinking outwardly. So you're a self-proclaimed pleaser. You like to walk in the room, make everybody laugh, make everybody happy. Mm-hmm. You're on the radio. You're doing silly gags around Salt Lake City. You're entertaining everybody else. During that time, how much personal self-reflection, concentrated, purposeful growth were you engaged in on Casey?
Absolutely zero.
Right.
Maybe a little time at the gym.
You were spinning plates.
Yeah.
Maybe a little time at the gym.
Yeah, a little time at the gym.
That way.
And that was about it. Other than that, it was always, what can I do to make you laugh? What can I do to make you happy? What can I do to make these salespeople job easier? What can I, and that was my mindset. And it was like, if I'm pleasing all these people.
And you were the go-to guy. And a lot of people don't really know that behind the scenes, when like a big band would come to town, Casey was out there like entertaining them, making them happy, getting them what they wanted. You were greasing all the wheels so that these bands would keep coming to town and performing here in Salt Lake, right?
I would pick them up at the airport. I would take them to the clubs. I would, if they say they needed anything, I would do my best to find it.
Anything?
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
We can leave it at that.
Yeah. Whatever they needed, I was their go-to guy.
Right.
And so a lot of times when they came back through, rather than calling the station, they would call me directly.
They call you. Yes.
And go, hey, we're coming into town. And I'd be like, cool.
Cool. And you set it up. Everything got set up. So a lot of people don't know all that behind the scenes. The way I vision your life, and a lot of people who are in that industry doing that thing, it's like spinning plates. You got to keep all those plates spinning. If you're old enough to remember the Johnny Carson days or those kind of TV acts where people would literally spin plates, they had to run around and keep them all going. And that distracts a person from any self-reflection. Right? You don't have time. You're trying to pay the bills, make the wife happy, deal with the kids, spin all the plates, make AC/DC happy, whichever band it is.
It was mostly Howard Jones, In Excess, Midnight Oil.
Those guys,
yeah.
And doing all that kind of stuff. And it distracts a person. Unfortunately, during the time in life when you can really, the term is individuate or become yourself in your 20s and early 30s. And so that was then, and you always had this sense that things are a little precarious. They may not last. When's the other shoe going to drop? Okay. Fast forward to sitting in detox. Mm-hmm. How did life for the next few months change in this regard as far as where your focus went?
Well, the focus all shifted inward. I had to fix me. I had to figure out what I liked. I had to figure out what I wanted, what was important to me, and how was I going to be able to get those things. That's what I had to do, and I had a lot of time to do it.
Yeah. Because you weren't, everything else went away.
The crazy thing, in my early career, I wanted to be who you wanted me to be.
Yeah.
I didn't become who I wanted to be. I became who you wanted me to be. And it didn't matter who it was in the room. I wanted to be the person you wanted me to be. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know who I wanted to be. And now, after the 3 years and a lot of internal work, I know who I want to be. I know what kind of person I want to be. And so that's probably right. Gosh, you're a good doctor.
Well, I would say that's the true meaning. What you're talking about right now is the core or the true meaning of the word recovery. We're doing a show called Project Recovery. And we've said on the show a lot, you've said a lot, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's recovery. Mm-hmm. And recovery means digging deep, changing your perspective, self-knowledge, growth, taking the time for yourself. It is so hard to try to provide for a family, create a career, keep other people happy, pay all the bills, and still spend time on self-discovery and self-development. And we're, like you said, we're not taught that. That's not a course in high school. It's the opposite. It's the opposite. Go out there, conquer the world, get a career, buy a big house, do big stuff.
Check all the boxes.
Yeah. But along the way, we forget about our self-development. So I think the reason, it's just a theory.
I'll take it.
But my theory is the reason you don't feel like the other shoe's about to drop anymore, and the reason that things are going your way is because you know who you are now. You aren't focused on trying to be somebody for someone else. You're focused on being yourself. And a lot of people don't know that opportunities have come your way in the last year, 18 months, that I think you would have jumped all over in the old days. You'd have been, yes. And now I hear you say stuff like, I don't know, I'm going to have to think about that. Is that right for me? Is that right for my family? I don't know that, even though these are big opportunities that I think if we announced them all, which we won't, but people would be like, oh my gosh, he didn't take that, he didn't do that. And it's because, well, you're now filtering it through Casey. Like, is this who I am anymore? Is this the right thing for me?
When I got the offer to come back on TV, the first people I asked
that's an example.
Was my kids. I was like, hey, if you guys don't want me to do this, I'm okay. I won't do it. But it's up to you guys because you're part of it. Because unfortunately, you got dragged along the ride on the last one, and I don't want to put you in this.
Addiction's a family disease, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's my theory.
That makes sense. And I think the other thing is should the other shoe drop, and eventually one will, I know I can do hard things.
But you're grounded. You're Casey now instead of you're not my Casey or someone else's Casey. You're your own Casey. And so I would say if you're out there thinking about getting sober, that's awesome. but also start thinking about getting to know yourself, develop yourself, have personal insight. To me, that's the real definition of recovery. And then your whole life changes.
Yeah, it's amazing. Hey, Curtis, he's our guest today, Curtis G. Marsh. The G stands for Gary.
Gary, that's my dad, yeah. I'm proud of it.
At any point in your addiction, did you feel like you were a plate spinner?
Oh, when you were saying that, I called it a chameleon. It was, if I was with my biker buddies, I was the biker guy. If I was with, another group, business group or religious group, whatever. Yeah, so I was always trying to please. And I think that stemmed from my upbringing. I was the oldest of four. And so, was that good enough? Was that good enough example for my siblings and, please your parents? I think we all want to do that.
Yeah. The voice you're hearing is Curtis G. Marsh. He's the author of the book, Rise Above the Chaos. We're going to find out more about him. You're listening to Project Recovery right here on KSL. Hey, welcome back to Project Recovery. I'm Casey Scott. My good friend over there is Dr. Matt Woolley. He's a clinical psychologist, and I don't know you all that well, Curtis, but I'm pretty sure Dr. Matt's the smartest man in the room.
I wouldn't doubt it. But
you're a well-read
Casey
person.
says stuff like that.
You're a well-read person because Dr. Matt brought us a book today. It's called Man's Search for Meaning.
Beautiful.
And you said this is a great book, so you've already read it.
Yes, I have. Gary Lee Price gave me that book.
So me and Josh, the producer, are going to read this, and then we'll have a book report next week, or maybe in 2 weeks or a month.
It's a short one, and Viktor Frankl, I would say it's one of those books that if everybody read that book, it would create a culture of people that were self-reflective.
Really?
You would definitely rethink what your life means.
Right.
Where do you get meaning in your life? So I hope you'll read it.
Okay, I'm going to read it. I promise you I will read it. Curtis, where does the story of chaos, because that was your nickname through all the madness of your addiction, where does the story of chaos begin?
Chaos was a name given to me in the biker world by my buddy Gary Ross out of Boston, and we were riding with Dee Snider, Vince Neil, and Foghat up in West Yellowstone.
That's quite the group right there.
Yeah, that is.
Did you just listen to who he was talking about?
Those guys fly in their jets.
That's
we
a
had
motley
the bikes
crew.
for them.
Literally, Twisted Sister,
Yeah.
Foghat.
Oh man,
Wow. Slow ride.
We had a great time, and he said to me, he says, "Hey," he says, "You're chaos." And I looked at him. I thought, that's not got the greatest meaning to me, and to the world. When you think of chaos, I mean, what do you think of?
Mess.
Disaster. Things aren't going well.
Just out of control. And he said that to me, and I thought, man. And then I thought, you know what? I think I started kind of playing into that because I was like unhappy with my life, and I thought, I am going to be chaos. I'm going to create chaos.
So you leaned into it.
I leaned into it, and I became that name. And I created chaos in my own life by, chaos comes into our life two ways. Life, it just happens. Something chaotic happens in our life, and how long we let it stay and what we let it teach us, nothing's designed to crush us, okay? Or chaos will come into our life by the choices that we make. And that was the majority of my chaos. I had the world by the tail, I thought. A lot like you, Casey. I worked on some major firms on Wall Street and had just a great life, but deep down I was fighting this pain and people pleaser that we talked about. So
where did the pain start? So let's start at the very beginning. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Salt Lake. Age 5, we moved to Bountiful, Utah. My parents, 2 West High graduates, and still with us today. My dad, Gary, my mom, Beverly, great people in their 80s. I was the oldest of 4.